Have you ever seen something staring at you from the woods with eyes that glow like fire? It happened to several people in the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, back in the 1960s. And not long after, a bridge collapsed, killing dozens. A coincidence? Or maybe something more sinister? Welcome to the Wild Archive. I'm your host, Tyler Phoenix, and today we dive deep into one of the most creepiest urban legends in American history, the Mothman. It started on a cold night in November 1966. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving near an abandoned TNT factory just outside of town when something strange appeared in their headlights. A tall figure, at least 6, maybe 7 feet high, with glowing red eyes and wings not feathery but leathery, like a bat. It chased their car, they said. It followed them at speeds of nearly 100 miles an hour. And when they got back to town, they called the cops. So, yes, today we are going to be talking about the Mothman. And for those who don't know, for those who do know about a whole bunch of cryptids, like Bigfoot and Dogman and, aliens and all that kind of stuff, then you probably have heard of the Mothman. But those who haven't heard of him, that's kind of like the history of it, and kind of when those people saw the first sighting. That was like the first sighting of Mothman. And there's many accounts of people witnessing the Mothman and things happening and a bridge collapsing. And we're going to talk about that on this podcast. But before we do all that, I want to kind of talk about the reports that the two couples, wrote about what they saw and everything. I'm going to read this. This is from the Mothman wiki. It's on the fandom.com or whatever. So, here we go. The Scarberry and Millettes wrote the following reports just days after their supposed Mothman encounter on November 15th, 1966. The documents give insight into the earliest beginnings of West Virginia's Mothman legend. These reports were not part of the public record until they were used in the production of Jeff Wemsley's book Mothman: Facts Behind the Legend. The pages, all of which were once part of Linda Scarberry's collected documents, were later put into the Mothman Museum for all to see. So this is the first report from Linda Scarberry. We were riding through the TNT area on a side road by the old powerhouse building around 12 on, I'm guessing that's 12 a.m., on Tuesday night. Yeah, so midnight. November 15th, 1966, when we came over this small rise in the road. All at once, Steve yelled out for us to look at the thing in the road. I looked up and saw it go around the corner at the old powerhouse. It didn't run, but wobbled, like it couldn't keep its balance. Its wings were spread just a little. We sat there for a few seconds, then Roger took off. I kept yelling for him to hurry. We didn't even stop for the curves. We got out on Route 62 and was coming down the road, and that thing was sitting on the second hill when you come into the first bad when you've come into the first bad curves. As soon as our lights hit it, it was gone. It spread its wings a little and went straight up into the air. When we got the armory, it was flying over our car. We were going between 100 and 105 miles an hour down that straight stretch, and that thing was just gliding back and forth over the back end of the car. As we got there in front of the lights by the resort, it dived at our car and went away. I could hear the wings flapping as if to get more speed as it went up. We were all terrified and kept yelling for Roger to go faster. As we came into that straight stretch by C.C. Lewis Farm, that thing was over our car again. Then it disappeared as we came into the lights by C.C. Lewis's gates. We went on downtown and stopped by Dairyland and tried to decide what to do. We just sat there and looked at each other. I wanted to go to the police, but Steve and Roger kept saying they'd just laugh at us. We talked about it a while, and Roger and Steve wanted to go back up to the road. Mary and I kept trying to talk them out of it, and finally, when we got to C.C. Lewis's gate, they decided they didn't want to go back up, so we turned around. As we were turning, we saw a big dead dog laying along the road. When we were almost turned around, this thing jumped and leaped over our car and went through the field on the other side of the road. We decided to go to the police then and went down and around Tiny's drive-in looking for them. Gary was outside the drive-in getting ready to take a couple boys home, so we told him about seeing this thing and asked them to call the police. After the police came, we went back up to the road in our car with Gary and the police about a half a mile behind us. I saw it in a pasture field with its wings out a little walkedly towards the car. Then it went up in the air and came at the car. As Gary's car lights came over the rise in the road and the lights shined on it, it disappeared. We went up and down the road looking for it, but didn't see it anymore. We went down back to the drive-in and got in Gary's car and went back up. We finally found Millard Halstead and got with him and went to the powerhouse building. We sat there with our lights out for about 15 to 20 minutes when I heard that squeaking sound like a mouse, only a lot stronger. A shadow went across the building over on the hill across from us. Mary and I saw the red eyes then and told Millard. He shined the lights right on them without being told where they were. We saw dust coming from the ground or somewhere as Millard moved the spotlight around. We finally left and came to the trailer. The Millettes were afraid to go to their apartment, so we decided to stay together, but we didn't go to bed. We just turned on all the lights and stayed up. Wednesday, we went up again to the building and found these off tracks around the building. Steve was around the boilers by himself, and suddenly he came running out, as white as a sheet, yelling for someone. He said he saw it in the boiler. That night it was seen at Thomas's, so we went up there, and Mary and I stayed in the house while Steve and Roger and a few others bystanders went looking for it. On the way up, I saw it from the highway above the trees, gliding back and forth. They searched the area around Thomas's house, but didn't find anything. We started home around 12:30, and I saw it in one of the maintenance buildings. Mary and I started crying, and Roger took off. I kept thinking about that thing following us again, but it didn't. We went to my mother's, and I went all to pieces. Roger and my dad took me down to the hospital. I finally got back home, and we all stayed together that night again, but didn't go to bed until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We were still afraid to go to sleep. The next day, Thursday, we went back up with reporters, and we all heard a clanging noise from inside the building. Roger and Steve and the reporters went back in and found the boiler door open that Steve had shut when he left a few minutes before that. That night, we went back up, and Harry Haar and I saw the eyes inside the fenced-off place beside the powerhouse building. On the way home, I saw its eyes back in some trees from the road as the car went past, and looked back and could see its form. That is the last time I have seen it. To me, it just looks like a man with wings. It was a dirty gray color. It is a body-shaped form with the wings on its back that come around it. It has muscular legs like a man with fiery red eyes that glow when the lights hit it. There was no glowing about it until the lights hit it. I couldn't see its head or arms. I don't know if the eyes are even in the head. When we came down the straight stretch by the armory, it didn't even seem like it had any trouble keeping up with us. It must have had very powerful wings. At no time did this thing fly at us from the front of the car. It stayed back. It stayed over the back end of the car while it was chasing us. It seemed to be afraid of lights, but I read in the paper today that it has been seen in the daytime in town. That I don't understand. The prints we found at C.C. Lewis's gate and at both powerhouses and at Thomas's. They looked like two horses. They look like two horseshoes put together, but they're smooth. I think they're supposed to say horseshoes. They look like two horseshoes put together, but they're smooth. Yeah. I know people are laughing at us, but it's no laughing matter. We'll never forget this thing. It has affected our lives in many ways. I am keeping going on nerve and sleeping pills. When it gets dark, I feel the fear creeping over me. When I go any place, I automatically look up and out the windows. I am afraid to sleep at night, so I lay awake sometimes crying with fear. When I do sleep or go to bed, the lights burn all night. Even in the daylight, I'm afraid to be by myself. I walk around in my own house, expecting to see that thing. I close my eyes day or night, and I can see those red, fiery eyes staring at me. Every little noise scares me to death. So there's a lot more. We're not gonna read it all. Okay, so there's Mary Millet's report too. So they were all together. It was Steve, Roger, Millet, or it was Steve, Roger, Mary, and the other lady. What's her name? Linda. Okay. So they were all in the car together. And but I just want to stop. I kind of want to talk about her report, and I want to go back. So she said, and, this is her report. So, and as we speeded down the road on the straight stretch at a speed of 100 or 105 miles an hour, the thing glided over top of our car back and forth until we drove it into the lights by the armory. The thing never once flew in front of our car. So, interesting. So this thing is flying at 100 miles an hour. That's fast, guys. I mean, that's fast. 100 miles an hour, 105 miles an hour. That's fast. A lot of birds. Maybe, I'm not sure. I know hawks and eagles and stuff can fly that fast. I'm not sure about little birds. I could be wrong, but I'm not really sure about little birds. Like ravens and crows and stuff like that. So, anyway, And bats either too. I mean, moths, even, I don't think they can fly that fast. And they fly in a weird pattern too. Like butterflies and moths and everything, they fly in weird patterns. But she was saying this thing's flying like just straight at them. It kind of reminds me of, if anybody's ever seen the Scooby-Doo 2 movie, like the real life, like Monsters Unleashed or whatever. Remember the main guy, villain or whatever, the guy in the pterodactyl costume? It kind of reminds me of that. Mothman kind of reminds me of that. Except for in the movie, he's in a costume, and but it kind of reminds me of that, except for it's a moth and not a pterodactyl. But let's kind of it's kind of interesting. You know what? I'll tell you what I believe, because I know about the Mothman and everything, and I'm kind of skeptical. I can see the possibility, but there's other cryptids that I believe in, like without a doubt. For instance, Bigfoot, aliens, the Dog Man. Mothman is, I don't know, because what if it's a man, and let's say the military back then was doing like secret experiments, because they did stuff like that back then. I'm sure they do now too, but what if they were experimenting with a guy, and they injected him with some moth DNA or something like that, and with some growth DNA or something, and AKA he became the Mothman, and he was flying around and everything, and that's how you get the Mothman. I don't know. It's just interesting. But let's keep reading. I want to read about this, the Silver Bridge collapse. Now, I'm not sure if I've heard of this. But, so, on December 15th, 1967, just over a year after the first Mothman sighting, the Silver Bridge, which connected Point Pleasant to Idaho, suddenly collapsed during rush hour, and 46 people died. And it says, and the Mothman was never seen in town again. Many believe the creature was a warning, that it came to foretell disaster, and others say it caused a tragedy. Whatever the case, the town would never be the same. Interesting. Let's kind of read about that. Let me look that up. I didn't hear about the bridge collapse, so let's kind of read about it. Let's see, Silver Bridge collapse. Mothman. Okay, so on December 15th, 1967, tragedy struck the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. It was the late afternoon rush hour, and dozens of cars were packed bumper to bumper up and down the length of the bridge. Then, without warning, the bridge collapsed into the Ohio River. 31 vehicles plunged into the frigid water below, taking 64 people down with them. Of those 64, 46 lost their lives, and 2 of the bodies were never ever found. Wow. But this strange and sudden tragedy became all the more bizarre when witnesses soon reported having seen a mysterious creature in the region surrounding Point Pleasant, leading up to the disaster. The creature was described as standing roughly 7 feet tall with large, red, glowing eyes. Locals came to call this creature the Mothman. And the day of the Silver Bridge collapse was not the first time he had been spotted. In fact, the first sighting of the Mothman came just over 1 year earlier when gravediggers working in a cemetery in Clendenin, West Virginia, spotted what they described as a brown human being soaring over their heads, moving rapidly from tree to tree. So I guess that was one of the first sightings of Mothman, alongside, the two couples that saw, Linda and Steve and Roger and Mary, who saw him and were chased by Mothman. 3 days later, two couples in Point Pleasant noticed a white-winged creature about 6 or 7 feet tall standing in front of the car they were all sitting in. Two of the witnesses later claimed that the beast had bright red eyes about 6 inches apart. A 10-foot wingspan. That's big. 10 feet, that's huge. And that had apparently wanted to avoid their car's bright headlights. The witnesses also claimed that the Mothman could fly at staggering speeds, possibly as fast as 100 miles an hour. And, because they were going that fast and he was keeping up with them. That's fast. As it chased their car alongside the road to the outskirts of town before flying off into a nearby field. Journalists, meanwhile, were skeptical. They referred to the alleged Mothman as either a bird or simply a large creature, though a few did report one witness claim that it was like a man with wings. It didn't take long, however, for more stories of the Mothman to begin circulating. Within a week of first claims, the Gettysburg Times reported 8 additional sightings, including 2 volunteer firefighters who claimed to have seen a very large bird with large red eyes. Okay, now before we talk about other witnesses of Mothman, that's just crazy that bridge collapsed after seeing Mothman. What are the odds? That's interesting. Now here, let's talk about some theories. Like I said, maybe it was a military experiment gone wrong or something. The guy went rogue and he had moth DNA in him, aka the Mothman. But here's where things get even stranger. People in Point Pleasant started reporting visits from strange men in dark suits, asking odd questions, speaking in robotic tones. And they didn't seem human. And we're going to talk about these men in another episode, but we all know them as Men in Black. For those who know anything about aliens or extraterrestrials, you've heard the Men in Black, and also have probably seen the movie. But the real Men in Black, the guys in suits who come and, they ask odd questions and, and then you never see them again or whatever. Were these infamous Men in Black? Author John Keel, who wrote the Mothman Prophecies, which is also a movie, I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it after this. Believed the creature was not just a cryptid, but a supernatural being connected to a larger web of strange activity. UFOs, ghost lights, missing time, and government surveillance. Wow. And there's been reports of people who've seen Mothman or whatever, have experienced missing time and all that, which is really interesting. Okay, let's go back to these other witnesses. Now, it doesn't really say like the date of when these people saw, or their encounters or whatever, but because I want to talk about some encounters that have happened around our time, in 2025, or earlier, So a man named Newell Partridge, who lived in the nearby town of Salem, West Virginia, said he too had an encounter with the Mothman. He claimed that strange patterns had appeared on his television screen one night when he heard an odd noise outside. Aiming a flashlight in the direction of the sound, he said he saw two red eyes, like bike reflectors, staring back at him, and that shortly after, his dog disappeared. Not the dog. Mothman got the dog. To this day, stories of the Mothman hold a chilling place in the history of Point Pleasant. Many continue to speculate that the Mothman may have been a harbinger warning the residents of Point Pleasant about the impending doom of the Silver Bridge collapse. This makes me wonder. I don't think I've ever asked this question, but I wonder, has there been reports of seeing more than one Mothman? Or is it just one Mothman? Because when it comes to Bigfoot, there's a lot of Bigfoot out there. It's not just one. When it comes to Dogman, and it's not just one Dogman, it's a lot. But when it comes to Mothman, is it just one Mothman? Or is it a whole bunch of Mothmen? I want to find that out. Let me see. I want to read some encounters with Mothman from today's age. Let's see, encounters with Mothman. But that's just really interesting. That bridge fell down. Because that's sad. Those people died. Rest in peace. And I wonder if anybody tried to warn them. So September. Interesting. So September 10th, 2001. So this is the day before 9/11. Some conspiracy-leaning sources claim that a dark flying figure was seen near the World Trade Center in the days leading up to the September 11th attacks, which I've heard about. I've heard people saying that. There's no images or anything, but it's just anecdotal references and paranormal forums and stuff. Okay, this was in 2007. I-35 West Bridge collapsed in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Eyewitnesses claimed a winged creature was spotted around the bridge days before it collapsed on August 1st, 2007. Multiple online accounts said they saw a giant black bird or man-like figure perched on the bridge structure. And 13 people died in the collapse. And yeah, that is kind of reminiscent to the Silver Bridge collapse too. Interesting. In 2011, this in Fukushima, Japan. A few online reports surfaced that workers and residents in Japan saw a large red-eyed flying humanoid in the skies before the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. I didn't know that. Allegedly seen hovering over the plant, the nuclear plant. Reports mostly appeared on cryptid paranormal forums. Interesting. Okay, this is from 2017. Chicago Mothman flap Started in 2017, over 100 sightings have been reported around the Chicago area, especially near O'Hare Airport. People seeing, bat-like wings flying through the sky, growing red eyes and orange eyes. Interesting. Flying over, people's houses and cars, traffic, Someone said, one witness quote from 2017, "I was standing on the edge of the parking lot." Or it was standing on the edge of the parking lot. Tall, black wings. It looked like it was watching us. Now, there's a whole bunch of theories out there. Is it a mass panic? Is everybody just crazy? Everybody just could be making this up. But, are there people who don't know their birds and they're misidentifying the birds? Maybe they're saying, oh, yes, this creature I saw was 10 feet tall or 7 feet tall, and their judgment could be off. It could have been, because it was nighttime or something, and their judgment could have been off, and instead of being 7 feet tall, it was 4 feet tall or 3 feet tall. It could have been a big owl. It could have been a heron, a flamingo. I don't know, a flamingo. Flamingos live in Africa, I think. But a big heron or whatever type bird, or a crane. So. But who knows? I don't know. I'm skeptical myself too. But let's see. There's sightings in Texas. It was seen hovering near power lines. Oh, there's even one in Mexico City. Dark, fast-moving shadow in the sky just before a major earthquake. And Costa Rica. In 2023, a red-eyed being seen at night near a mountain road. Do these tie into the legend? I don't know. Encrypted researchers believe Mothman sightings seem to precede or follow disasters, which we just read about, occur near water, bridges, or power lines, cause feelings or dread, nausea, or mind fog in witnesses. Interesting. I don't know. It's just the Mothman is an interesting cryptid. I'm still skeptical myself. Now, if one of my best friends told me, hey, look, man, I was in the woods yesterday, or I was driving through the woods or whatever, to the countryside, and I saw this thing with huge wings, and it flew over my car, and it was standing. I would believe him. Because it's just my friend. I would believe my friend. Because and they don't know what Mothman is. But who knows? So what do we make of the Mothman? A warning? A curse? Or just a shadow our minds create in the dark? From Point Pleasant to Chicago, from legends to leaked reports, it's clear that something is out there. Maybe it's still watching. Maybe it's closer than you think. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, follow me, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm not on Apple Podcasts yet. I'm trying to get on Spotify. I'm not on there yet. I'm just on YouTube and Podbean. I'm on Podbean too. If anybody who knows anything about podcasting, Podbean is an app where you can make your podcasts and everything. People can follow you. You can follow other people. But I'm trying to get on Apple Podcast and Spotify. But it's a work in progress. So, but you can leave a review on here on YouTube and comment. Let me know if any one of you guys has a report or encounter with cryptid, Mothman, aliens, Bigfoot, the abominable snowman. Let me know. So who knows? Maybe I'll make it on the next episode. Maybe I'll do a story on one of your guys' encounters. And you can send me stories through the email that's going to be linked in the description. But until next time, keep your lights on, your eyes open, and whatever you do, don't ignore the red eyes in the dark.